Now it's time for Culture Swap.
Swap my culture.
Listeners, this is unusual for Nerd on Nerd, but I am going to give you a trigger warning for this segment. Because we did a graphic novel called Crossed, which has a lot of very adult themes, and it's not a particularly nice graphic novel in terms of, like, what happens in it. So if anyone is bothered by things like rape, murder,
Child killing,
child abuse, that kind of shit, hey, skip over the rest of this episode. It's cool.
Right,
I get it.
I have a slight issue with the way that you're presenting this.
Why?
Because you're like, if anyone is bothered by these horrific things,
yeah,
and now I'm just
if everyone's bothered. Yeah, I don't mean bothered. I mean if you get like if you get triggered by this kind of stuff. Because now I'm just obviously everyone is bothered. We're all bothered by it. I'm not a monster.
Yeah. Okay. Because it just to me sounded like you were basically telling all of our listeners to stop listening.
No,
unless
no,
you
no.
are.
I see the issue with what I said. Okay.
Cool.
If you were triggered by things like rape, murder, child abuse, child killing, that kind of stuff, then skip the rest of this episode. It's all cool. Go listen to another episode to get the contact details. We'll do them at the end, but, whatever. It's fine.
Or if you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description.
Yeah, there you go. How helpful.
Also,
anyway.
How is 2019?
It's so much better in the future. Anyway, we're also going to spoil everyone. Now, you should all tune out. Anyone that's still listening, you better be ready for this. We're going to spoil Crossed Volume 1, obviously, because that's what we do. Yeah. Those are the warnings. Let's get into it. What did you think? Or what do you want to do a rundown of what Crossed Volume 1 is about?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of like a zombie apocalypse story, except they're not zombies. They're so much worse.
Yeah.
So, if you've read something like The Walking Dead, there are parallels between the two. And it is about a band of survivors who are thrust together, trying desperately to eke out a living after society has crumbled, and you have this immense threat that is just constantly present.
Yeah.
But these are so much worse than zombies. Because zombies are quite slow, shambling corpses.
Unlike the scale of threat, you've got zombie, like the standard zombie, the slow moving, individually not that bad, in big groups they can fuck you up. Then you've got something more along the lines of like 28 Days Later, which is
where they can run.
They're technically not zombies, but like a fast zombie thing where the zombies are actually fast.
Infected.
It suddenly means that they're always a threat, even if there's only one, it can still be a threat. Then you get Crossed, which is they're not zombies, they are people.
Infected still. Yeah.
They're infected, but the virus just makes you act out the most depraved, horrendous, vicious acts that a human could do, ever.
Yeah.
And the virus makes you do that. You are still just a human. You can use guns. If basically anything you knew in your normal life, you still can do as one of the Crossed.
Yeah.
You're just
you can't,
vicious.
Yeah, you revert to this like primal, or even like I think it's described in a way it's almost like before primal, where your self-survival instincts switches off.
Someone says that in the thing is like, oh, they've gone like primal, and I was like, well, no, they're beyond primal, because like the Crossed they'll like as they're being killed, they'll be finding it hilarious because they're just beyond that.
Yeah, this is the sort of graphic novel as well that I think if we wanted to, we could get quite deep into, because when you're infected, a red cross emerges on your face, and they touch upon it in this, the like religious implications of that.
Yeah.
But
one of the characters talks about how maybe it's God punishing you, and then someone else is like, well, then I think God's got more problems than us if that's the solution.
Yeah, I think at one point they're like, what sort of God would do that? And then the other person's like, unless God's a cocksucker, I think they say.
Possibly.
And then the first character's like, fair point. Yeah. So it's not really ever explained how this virus like emerges, like where it starts.
Yeah,
It
you
just
literally
erupts.
Yeah, it's got the same sort of rules as a zombie virus in terms of if you get blood, if they manage to bite you or get any of their bodily fluid on you or inside you, you will become infected. And they show that the virus can vary depending on how you get infected. You get people that turn almost instantly, and then you get other people that turn after days.
Yeah. Well, one of the ways that they show, and again, to give an idea of the intelligence that they have, is one of the ways they infect someone is by masturbating and coming onto bullets that they then use to fire at our survivors. And when one of these like semen-covered bullets hits a guy, it infects him.
Yeah. It's pretty fucked up. Like, that's a very... In this comic book, that's such a minor fucked up thing that they do.
Yes.
And that's, in reality, is just horrendously vile.
Yeah.
But that's nothing compared to the rest of this graphic novel.
No.
That's the level we're talking about here.
Yeah. This is the sort of graphic novel that when I go to a comic book shop and they say to me, what are you looking for? I say something like Crossed, and they generally look at me like I've just kicked a dog to death in front of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
understandably.
So we've just kind of touched very, very like lightly on how depraved this is. I want to just mention why I like it before we go into more of the depravity.
Yep.
Because what appeals to me about a graphic novel like this is that it is so unique to its medium.
Yeah.
Like, you could not do this story justice in film or TV. Because it would be...
Oh, no.
It would be essentially like pornographic, but in a really unsexy way.
Yeah, it would be like a knockoff Walking Dead with extra nudity. By the time, because you'd have to get it through rape. Like censors and stuff. And...
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
And that's why one of the things I like about this is I just how whoever, like, the minds that came up with this, which we haven't yet mentioned, and we should. This was written by Garth Ennis, who we've actually discussed a previous graphic novel of his on the podcast.
Yeah, which one did he do? I know him.
He did Preacher.
Ah, right, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Which we discussed way back. He also is responsible for The Boys, which is getting a TV show soon.
Oh, okay, is it? I didn't know.
Yeah, did you not know this?
No.
Have you read The Boys?
I've read Volume 1, I think.
So The Boys, just to very briefly sidetrack, is about a world of like superheroes, basically, and it's kind of like if superheroes actually existed and the amount of destruction they caused, it doesn't gloss over what that means. The amount of deaths that means. And one of the characters in it was based on Simon Pegg from like way back in his like space days.
And if you look at a cover of The Boys comic,
you'll be able to
immediately pick out that character.
And they announced that he's playing the father of one of the characters, possibly that character, I can't remember, in the TV show.
That's quite cool.
Yeah. It's a good graphic novel, but for me personally, I prefer Crossed. In that, like, my favourite graphic novel used to be The Walking Dead. It's gone hugely downhill in the last couple of years.
Oh, has it?
Yeah, depressingly so.
I'm so out of date with Walking Dead comics. I'm like probably the equivalent of like season 3 of the TV show in the comic books.
Yeah, where they're dealing with the governor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, up until probably about volume like 16, I reckon it's good. And then it's just... They introduced a character. You might like this character, but for me, it feels kind of pandering.
Right.
Just like... You know how I have issue with like people on Tumblr?
Yeah.
This character literally feels like it's been created just to appeal to those people.
Right. As in it's like a minority character.
No. I mean, it is, but that's not why.
Okay.
It's the way they talk.
Okay, well maybe we should talk about this after the show because it's completely irrelevant. And
it is, yeah. No, but I'm just saying.
Talk about it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, equivalency.
Yeah.
I love The Walking Dead, and the setup and the premise is very similar. And that's kind of what I like about Crossed. Is it takes an already horrible idea and like not like rackets it up to 11.
Yeah, definitely.
And it is disgusting. It's not an easy read. I remember reading this for the podcast recently, today in fact, and
I remember reading this earlier
today, and just sort of thinking as I was reading it, how are we going to talk about this in a kind of nerd on nerd, jokey, jovial manner, because it's legitimately horrible.
It is, but I don't know. My like feelings towards The Crossed, I think, are slightly different to yours. I think The Crossed is fascinating in that it is telling the story of characters.
Yeah.
It's not one of those like cheesy things where it's just like, look at these guys fuck up a bunch of zombies that are doing fucked up shit.
Yeah.
It's all about the characters.
Yeah.
The Crossed themselves are just this ever-present threat.
Yeah, which
drives the story onwards.
Which is how it compares to The Walking Dead, because that was the point of The Walking Dead
exactly.
as well, right? It's about these survivors. 100%. Yeah.
But like the stuff that happens in this is horrible and just like extremely fucked up.
Yeah.
But I don't have the same reaction of like, because I've had another friend. There's only two people I've ever recommended The Cross to, and it's Liam and one of my other friends.
Yeah.
And he would not read more than a couple of pages because it's so horrible.
Whereas I love it.
Yeah, and so do I.
Yeah.
But I don't love it because of the gore and the violence in it. Like, that is another element. I find it fascinating. I don't know what the right way to describe it is. Like, it's not a fascination with what they're doing, but it's like, it's almost like, how is this being done in a graphic novel?
Yeah. It's that sort of thing where it's like, I've never really seen this before, and also, I've never even had this as an idea before.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I like about it.
It's so beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just for example, listeners, there's a scene in this, if you haven't read it, where one of the characters thinks he's discovered the Crost's weakness because he threw some salt, or one of them fell in some salt, and he thinks that it was screaming in pain and dying.
Yeah.
The other characters are very quick to point out that he's probably just imagining that that's what happened.
Yeah.
Having salt thrown in your face just hurts anyway.
Yeah.
And then one of them says, "Would you bet your family's life on this?" And he's like, "No, maybe not."
Yeah.
And then, like, immediately after that, you get a scene where a bunch of Crossed hunt them down, catch up with them, and his wife falls over and is like, "Take our kid. Look, I can't run. You've just got to save them." Which in this universe is like, this universe doesn't sugarcoat it. It's like, you have to abandon people to live.
Yeah.
If you aren't going to cut dead weight in this universe, you die.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He makes a ring of salt around himself, and then you have to look at a panel where she is being murdered and raped and turning into Crossed, screaming at him that it's all his fault while he is also murdered and raped.
Yeah.
And their child is being torn apart in the background.
Yes.
And it is horrible.
Yes.
Like, it's such a violent scene.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, that's the level we're talking about, and you're sort of like, how the shit is this comic getting made?
Yeah, that is probably like the first like really, really harsh bit, because you are literally seeing a little girl like ripped in half.
Yeah.
In like a huge like 2-page panel. While the mum is yelling, saying, "Stupid cocksucker, fucking arsehole, look what you did, motherfucker, look what you fucking did."
Yeah.
It doesn't excuse idiocy, this comic. Like, if someone acts stupidly, they really pay for it.
And other people pay for it.
Yes. One of the other things that I thought was interesting about the survivors is, because this comic is really about, in a world with no rules, where you're facing this like horrible threat, how kind of low are you willing to sink to survive? Like, what are you willing to do to make it through this?
Yeah.
And one of the characters, after it's been with the survivors for a while, reveals a little piece of information about his past.
Yep.
Do you know the bit I'm talking about?
He has a very touching moment.
Yeah.
Where he's being like, "Yeah, look, I know I've never told you guys this," and one of the characters who's gay thinks he's gonna like
come out,
admit that he's also gay.
Yeah.
And instead of revealing that, he reveals that before the Crossed happened, he was kidnapping young men and brutally murdering them in his basement.
Yeah, and torturing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you then get one of the other characters, what's his name? I can't remember. This other guy who's basically like those two have somehow become friends, sort of. They're both like traumatized by what's happened to a point where they're almost like dying.
Yeah.
Just on the verge of just killing themselves, but they've got each other.
Yeah.
So he just goes for a walk with him the next morning, and only he comes back.
Yeah.
So like to survive, and like, but even then, because that one's almost like not survival. That's just like
no. What's interesting about that is it's still like sticking with almost like the rules of society, even though there is no longer a society.
Yeah, I guess that's more. They killed him because Cindy, who is one of the main characters, and she's basically like, she's the one she's
the leader,
figuring it all out.
Yeah,
she's the leader of their group. She's figuring it out in terms of not like how to deal with the cross, just she knows how to survive in this world.
Yeah,
because she's got her son with her.
Yeah,
and the only important thing to her is keeping him alive.
Spoiler alert: she fails.
She fails, and she fails badly.
Yes.
But so she wants that guy gone and is clearly going to kill him. But then the other guy who's friends with him is like, no, sort of gives her a look of like, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It is fascinating looking at what these characters do to survive. And there's almost moments where like they're dealing with the fact that they're not becoming the crossed, but they're losing their humanity.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Because Cindy and the main guy who we're sort of following, we're getting his story almost.
It's narrated by him.
Yeah. They have a moment where...
Is it Stan?
They
Is that
save...
his name, or am I getting that confused?
Yeah, Stan. I think that's right. They save a woman who has been protecting sort of like 6 kids that were in her kindergarten class on the day it happened.
Yeah.
And the way that they've been surviving is by like trapping other survivors and then killing them and stealing all their stuff.
I had a question about that I wasn't sure if we were meant to infer that the kids had resorted to cannibalism.
Yeah, I thought the implication was cannibalism.
Yeah, okay.
Because she says that the first guy they captured didn't have anything.
Yeah.
But that they managed to survive. So I think the implication was they killed him and ate him.
It was also one of their justifications of why they killed the kids, because they were like, we can't let these kids go with us because this is the way that
exactly.
Yeah.
They basically have to murder
8-year-olds.
These kids. Because the woman dies and then they make the decision that they can't bring these kids with them because now they know that's the only way they can survive.
Yeah.
They're just going to do that again. So Cindy's like the only survivor willing to do it. But then Stan goes back and kills the last couple because he's like, I can't let her do this alone, and this is also the right thing, in air quotes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that does sort of like fracture the group a bit because there were tensions after that.
Yeah.
It's just
fascinating.
It's watching these characters sort of trying to deal with this awful scenario.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But there's also quite dark humour in it as well. Like one of the crossed is affectionately nicknamed Horsecock.
Yes.
Because he carries around.
He basically, just to sort of explain part of it, there's like, most crossed are like these violent, just almost like instant gratification crossed, who are like, I want to just fuck up everything, cause as much mayhem as I can, and I don't care if I die.
Yeah.
But in the lore of crossed as a whole, there are some crossed who are different, and they become leaders. They're able to like actually think things through.
Yeah.
Horsecock is one of them.
Yeah.
He's not the smartest one we're ever going to meet in the crossed, but he is one of them.
Yeah.
He's able to convince a group to come with him and actively track this group of survivors across months and days and miles. The way he keeps his group in line is by smacking them around with a giant horsecock that he has somehow got hold of.
Yeah.
Horsecock is... I do love Horsecock because it's kind of ridiculous. But
it is.
He's still vile. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean... And the thing that is interesting about this, I think, that elevates it above things like The Walking Dead where we're dealing with zombies, is the crossed can be manipulative.
Yeah. Like, there's a few times in this where the crossed sort of almost get ahead of the humans in terms of their plans and stuff.
Yeah, like, for example, there's a bit where Cindy splits up from her son, and the crossed get hold of of one of the radios that the survivors have dropped in this like encounter, and they start taunting her, saying, "Oh, we've got your kid. We're gonna do things to him."
Yeah.
They go into more detail on what those things are.
Yeah, they do.
And there's a level of intelligence at play there that is, if you were in this situation, is genuinely terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it nearly works, because Cindy goes to run off.
It's
and
only
then one of the other guys
Exactly.
asks, he says, put him on the radio then. If you've got him,
Yeah.
we should be able to hear him. Put him on the radio.
Yeah. But then
And
we
then you think everything's okay, so you're like, haha, everything's fine.
Except
and
it's
then
not.
Cindy finds her son.
Yeah.
And he's not okay.
He's not.
So she has to kill him.
And that fucks her up.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's just... This comic is getting to know a bunch of characters. You like some of them, you hate some of them. And by the end, most are dead.
Yep, it doesn't matter whether you like them or not. Most are dead, and you just feel bad for them.
Yeah. I've got to mention, like...
And that's sort of a theme... That's kind of a theme across all the Crossed comics that I've read.
Yeah. In future housekeepings, I'm planning on reading and rereading, like, this series.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll definitely be catching up. I remember the second one quite vividly as being particularly good. The art...
Family Values, is that number 2?
Yeah. The art in this is by someone called Jacen Burrows. And it is just... I don't understand, like, what brief this guy must have been given for some of the stuff he had to draw.
I would genuinely love to see, like, the script that they sent over to him being like, yeah, and then we just have a panel of, like, a group of Crossed brutally torturing these people in this way.
Yeah. We want a scene where her son has turned and he's saying, "Mummy, you fucking cunt."
Yeah.
It's just... It's good, but I feel bad saying that it's good.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that I am fully aware that most of you are not going to want to read, and if you ever looked at it, like picked it up and opened the pages, you'd be like, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
But it is genuinely a very good character story when looked in those terms. Like, I mean, there is nothing else that tells this sort of story, because the Crossed makes such a messed up universe that their characters that no other characters are dealing with the situation that these guys are. Like, The Walking Dead is dealing with a similar situation, but it is it's nowhere near as horrible a world as these survivors are in.
The thing with The Walking Dead is the threat there is less the zombies and more other survivors.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with Crossed, at least in what I've read so far, it's very rare that your threat is other people that are living, because you've all gone through such a horrific ordeal that you're still just trying to survive. It's not like, I think with a zombie world, after a while it's possible to adapt and be like, right, these are slow, we know how to deal with these. But because there is a level of intelligence in Crossed, it would be like, you know, if aliens invaded. I don't think that I've ever seen, well, maybe District 9, but like a film where people have just got used to the fact that aliens are around.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like you know, it's that sort of thing where this world is so harsh to live in. There is no adapting to living in it. It is just, how do I get through today?
Yeah, I think that's another interesting thing about Crossed, is that a lot of those sort of shows, like the Walking Dead TV show, has the glimmer of hope in season 1, where it's like, maybe there's a solution, and then even even if there's not a solution, it's almost like, well, can we form a place to live?
Yeah.
And Crossed Volume 1 has that, but by the end of it, you are just sort of like, even I don't believe. Yeah, even I don't believe that that's the solution.
Yeah.
Like they think that if they go north, how can the Crossed survive? But already in this volume, you're seeing smart Crossed that can think, and you're like, well, if you can do it,
exactly,
they might be able to too.
Yeah.
So it's literally like just the bleakest comic book.
It is. I mean, this is the other thing, right? It is a horror story, and it probably is one of the more effective horror stories that I've read. And I think horror's a tricky one, right? Because I 100% get why people don't necessarily like horror.
Yeah.
But I love it. And this is one of those like very polarizing examples of horror where I don't think anyone would read this and be like, I feel lukewarm about it. I think you're going to get
you're either gonna you're either on board or you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think it's probably got some elements of like, I can see the other side of the argument because I don't watch films like Saw or Hostel, like the torture porn films.
Yeah, you're not a fan of
and
torture.
I could see someone looking at Crossed and being like, oh, well, that's just the same. It's just a gore fest, and that's why you're reading it. And that's not why I'm reading it. But then I imagine that's probably the argument that people that I would accuse of being into torture porn films would be like, well, no, I'm not into it because of the torture. I'm into it because, like, I actually find that fascinating, the character dealing with it.
I mean, in honestly, the first Saw film is more of a, like, police detective story.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
As it...
Yeah, Saw was a bad example because Saw...
Yeah, Hostel is one where it is like if you want to boil it down to themes, Hostel is very much that like American fear of the other, of like other cultures.
Yeah.
Of, you know, it's someone that's backpacking through Eastern Europe, I believe.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah, and you think like this is after quite fairly soon after 9/11, so it's tapping into that like we shouldn't really be going off to these places.
Yeah.
You know, because the when I was at uni, one of the things that really interested me was learning and researching about how horror ties into like political ideas and societal ones. Like there's a description of horror. I can't remember who described it like this, but horror is always a mirror of what society is afraid of at a specific point in time. So like,
yep, I've heard that before. It's like, isn't there like a thing where when zombie films are always popular during
times of war,
and isn't it something like specifically that you can like tie it even closer to like which political party is in power in America tends to have a sway?
Probably, yeah.
That's what I've heard. That there's something like, because when it's zombies is when the Republicans are in power, and it's people are then scared of the masses.
Yeah.
And like consumerism,
yeah,
or maybe it's vice versa, and then like vampire films get popular when the Democrats are in because people are then scared of the elite and all this stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously,
I don't know if that's true.
Like,
I think I've heard that.
Yeah, this is kind of really boiling it down to bare basics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what's interesting as well with Crossed is the potential it has, because as we know, like we've read on, and each like future volume deals with completely different survivors in their own sort of situations, and the world that is established in this has so much potential for so many different stories to be told. And one of the things that I really like is, as you're reading this, between each chapter you'll get like a splash page of just something messed up, and it's one of those things where it's like, you know that saying, a picture tells is worth 1,000 words or something. Yeah. Like you look at one of these splash pages and you're like, oh, there is a story going on here that I would love to know about.
Yeah.
And even in the back of the book, there's a cover gallery, which is exactly the same. Like each one, you're like, yeah, there is a story here that I would like to hear more about. Like one of them is it's the inside of a plane, and the door is open, and one of the Crossed guys is throwing someone out of the door, while another is dragging someone else, and you've got people being strangled and attacked, all like within the confines of a plane.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one is interesting because in the story, I don't. It might not be the same plane, but in the story, you almost see the like fallout of one of those specific scenes.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
because there's where everyone's falling out of. Basically, suddenly bodies just start like hitting the ground around them and exploding in gore. And they look up and there's just a plane flying overhead, and it's literally just this plane's got the infection, and the Crossed are just chucking people out. Yeah.
I mean, in a world without censors, if this was to be made into a TV show, you could have a kind of like anthology show where each episode was a different group of people dealing with a different situation.
Yeah. Or I
mean, I'm just saying you could. There's enough like
you could.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's necessarily the way it should be done, but there is enough potential in just this first volume to do that.
There is.
I think it's... I don't know if in a future volume we ever meet up with these characters again, but I'm pretty sure
I can't remember.
From what I've read, this is way back when I was looking into it, I think I read somewhere that Garth Ennis was saying he's handed this universe over to other writers, and he personally would never want to revisit these characters again because he's kind of content with where he's left the story.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's changed. I don't know if in the future, we do go back to them or not. But I like what was done with this. It was left. So obviously we're doing spoilers. So for those that aren't aware, after being tracked by this group led by Horsecock, we have our two main characters, Cindy and Stan. They decide to return to Cindy's son's body and give him a proper burial. The rest of the survivors are meant to be pushing on to Alaska, and they're going to meet back up.
They're stopping at 5 locations where Cindy and Stan can catch up with them, sort of thing.
Yeah. Horsecock catches up with the remaining survivors, and Cindy and Stan arrive a little bit too late to really do anything about it. They have like a last stand and kill all of the Crossed, and then just sort of walk off to Alaska by themselves. And that's how it's left.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that we don't get to see if the plan of Alaska pans out or not.
Yeah, because I think that's almost like that's not the important part of it.
No. And it's a very interesting...
They also hold hands.
Yeah, and I was about to say, it's an interesting relationship. Which
Stan has been wanting for the whole time.
Yeah, and Cindy's always... There is such a brutal moment where after...
Yeah. Oh, fuck. On. I can't remember what it is, but I think I know what bit you're talking about.
So yeah, there's a bit where Cindy and Stan are having a bit of a heart-to-heart, and he clearly fancies her, and he's saying how he hasn't seen her smile anymore, and he's kind of concerned about the future. And her response is, "If I ever do smile again, it won't be at you," which is just so brutal. And this is what I mean, like.
But it's also like a survival thing, I think, where she's like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I can't get involved
myself. I'm doing it to save my son and fuck everything else.
And also, like, this is where it's good, because I'm saying that's so brutal in a book where, as we've discussed, there are other far more violent things happening, but it's that like relationship element that stings the most in a way.
Yeah.
One other thing is the timeline in this book jumps around a lot, but it's always easy to follow kind of roughly where we are without it being like explicitly stated.
Yeah. You get to see the outbreak of the virus.
Yeah.
You get to see like the early days of survival and different groups that Stan has been with.
Yeah, because you get the outbreak and then it quite quickly jumps to like a year ahead, and then it starts jumping back as you're building up to where you are in that sort of current year ahead. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, do we want to dig deep into any of the themes that are touched upon here, or nah?
I mean, can do. But I don't know.
I mean, you have more of a background in religion than I do.
Well, yeah, but you always say this, and I fucking don't.
I know,
you just don't know anything, and I know barely anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's honestly, I don't think that's a big theme in it. They mention it once. I don't think it's a big theme in the cross. I don't think the cross is even meant to be a religious thing.
What do you think it's meant
to be? It's not a religious cross. It's just an interesting disease. I reckon someone went, what looks fucking cool? A red cross of like spot, because it's not in the shape of the religious cross.
No, it's across the eyes and then down the centre of the face.
It's literally a plus, which is other people call them the plus and mention that it's got a plus.
Yeah.
Like, which anyone that is religious or knows religious stuff, that's not what the Christian cross looks like.
No. There is a
bit I don't think there are religious themes in it.
They're in a church.
Yeah, but again, it's not they're not having like a deep dive into religion.
No.
At that point.
But I
just
think,
in a church and a dude's being crucified.
Yeah, but I wonder if you know more about religion, if it is possible to have a deeper religious reading into it or not.
I don't think so. There might be, but nothing that particularly stood out to me.
Is there any sort of deep reading that you think you can get out of it?
I mean, I think we've covered most of the deep reading, which is that it's about
Survivor.
The characters and like yeah.
Survivor.
I think that is the deeper read to Crossed, like, because the initial like cursory read is I'm reading a very violent, gory book.
It is.
And then the deeper dive is you're like, oh, actually, I'm learning about the characters and their ways of surviving.
Yeah, what they're willing to do to survive, and also why they're willing to survive. Because one of the things that comes up is like one of the characters who witnesses his family get murdered, and he manages to get out of that situation. He just gives up with living because he doesn't see that he has anything left to live for. Really,
yeah.
He self-sacrifices for the good of the group.
He sacrifices himself to save the others.
Yeah. The only other bit that I wanted to talk to you about is what you felt about the character that kicks Stan's dog. I think his name's Brett.
Well, obviously I don't like the character.
But what do you think about the whole what happens because of the dog kicking?
Well, I mean, it's just one of those moments that's meant to show us how close they are to almost becoming like the Crossed. Like, not in terms of him kicking the dog, but Stan's reaction to him kicking the dog, which is, I'm going to just shoot you in the chest.
Yeah.
And no one's going to give a shit.
No. Yeah. And I think the only thing...
I think Stan even says it. He's like, we're becoming inhuman.
Yeah. And
he knows he should care that he just killed someone, but he just doesn't, and no one else does either.
Yeah. The thing that almost stops them from being like the Crossed is the fact that they don't necessarily enjoy the killing.
Yeah, and then that's like moments like that. It's almost like, yeah, you don't enjoy the killing, but you're doing the killing for next to no reason.
Yeah.
So it makes the characters question themselves.
Yeah, yeah. But to be fair, don't kick dogs.
No, that is fair. I mean, to be fair, they killed 6 children because they thought they might be cannibals. Maybe they should have killed the dog.
No, dogs are the best.
Yeah, but Cindy's like, if this dog barks at any inappropriate moment, you have to be ready to kill it. And I was like, well, if it barks, it's far too late.
Yeah, exactly.
The Crossed react to gunshots.
Did I ever make you read Rover Red Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is another like apocalypse scenario, but told through the eyes of dogs.
Yeah.
Which I think, if you've listened to us discussing Crossed and you're like, I like the concept, but it sounds a bit too extreme for me, Rover Red Charlie is the comic for you.
Yeah, that's
fair,
really
I think,
that similar
right?
to the Crossed. Yeah.
Another reason why we decided to do Crossed is because you felt that last episode, where we did Brain Dead for our Halloween special, it wasn't scary enough. Or horror enough, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think this satisfies that urge?
It's not scary, but I think it definitely counts as horror.
Yeah.
I was definitely horrified numerous points.
I'd be worried if you weren't.
Exactly.
But this is also... We joke a lot on this podcast that my recommendations are amazing and yours are typically trash. But this is one of the few times that you've recommended something that I've genuinely really enjoyed.
Yeah, well, I can't remember where I found it. I genuinely don't remember where I picked up the original graphic novel. Like, I've got signed copies of... At least one of the volumes I own is a signed copy that I got from Forbidden Planet after reading the original, because I was like, holy shit, this series is so good.
Yeah.
But like, and I know I saw them at Comic-Con, the guy, I can't remember if it was Garth Ennis or other people from the company.
Yeah.
But I've been to a Comic-Con where the Crossed were there, and that was so cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Like, because I walked up and I was like, holy shit, I love you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are so cool. And they were like, oh, awesome.
I mean, this comic is partly the reason why I've ended up buying some more pornographic comics, because...
Yeah, which is weird, Liam. You shouldn't say it like that, because this isn't a pornographic comic.
No, it isn't, but what I'm saying
There's no one sitting at home being like, I'm going to masturbate to the Crossed.
No, and the other thing is I don't masturbate to the pornographic comics.
No, but there are definitely people that do masturbate.
Oh, yeah, but what I'm saying is it's the extremities that it's willing to go to. And some of the pornographic comics that I've got are maybe not as violent as this, but definitely still violent.
Kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Which is, I'd say this is probably like on the brink of those pornographic comics that I've read. Like, if they had maybe a bit more like blood and gore in them, I'd be like, oh, this is kind of getting close to Cross now.
Okay.
Because this is a comic that doesn't shy away from showing nudity.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the Crossed are naked.
Yeah. And not all of them are in one piece.
No, there's... To be fair, I don't know if I should find some of the scenes funny, that I find funny. I've just thought of this. But there is a moment where a Crossed gets run over by a car.
Yeah.
And then just shouts, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be funny.
No, I don't think you should be finding that funny.
But it is kind of funny. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's almost because the Crossed are almost like, they're so blasé about everything.
Oh, they're all, a lot of them, like, I don't think it's in this one, but definitely in one of the other ones, one of them cracks a joke whilst being killed. Yeah.
And, like, there's almost this, like, you want to laugh because it's cracking a kind of funny joke.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember what it is specifically, but in one of the other ones, I think he also gets run over by a car and then crawls after the character in that one and says, "Hey mate, hey, don't be a pussy, come back and scrape up my cock." Because I've been cut in half or something, and you're just like, this is so fucked up.
It so is.
But they're the Crossed are like trying to make jokes because they don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
it's weird.
In a way, they are living their best lives because for them,
you do you.
For them, that's all they want out of life.
Yeah, if anything, we should live like the Crossed.
So I've discussed already like how this wouldn't work as a film or TV show, but do you think this would work as a book? Like not a graphic novel, but like a book with words.
Yeah, I could see it working as a book.
Yeah,
because you've got the element of like imagination there, where it could tell you these, like, you're almost. I think it would make it almost more horrifying.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was about to say, because like it's one thing like seeing the art, and while the art is well drawn, it's still gross. But having it like in just text form could be a bit of a mindfuck. Yeah,
I mean the fact that this is drawn is a barrier between you and it. Like, you're not seeing a child being torn in half, you're seeing a drawing of that, and not cartoony, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's still not great.
It's a comic book style. It's not. But if you are reading that in a book...
Yeah, it's different. Like, I imagine, like, hearing us say a child ripped in half, what a listener who hasn't read Crossed might be picturing is probably worse than what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm now having that realisation that us talking about this might be making it worse than it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Just read Crossed.
Still listening.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, so I know Amanda might listen to this. Wouldn't recommend Crossed to Amanda.
See, I think Amanda was going to turn it off.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I wonder which of us knows Amanda better.
Well, you do more podcasts with her.
I do, but the annoying thing is the only way she'd be able to answer that is if she actually has listened.
Well, that's simple then. If Amanda doesn't tell us, I listened to the whole episode, then we'll know that she didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
So let us know if you're listening, Amanda.
Or don't, if you haven't.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about Crossed that you would like to discuss?
No, I don't think so. I think I agree with you that I'm going to read more again.
Oh, cool. So we'll have some good housekeepings coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the other thing that I've been meaning to get back into is Berserk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's similar in terms of, like, the graphic violence.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There is a trend in some of our comics.
Yeah.
But then again, like, you compare Crossed to something like Sunstone, which we both love.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're very different.
Yeah. Yeah, we have weird tastes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, if people have only just started to go, Ellie and Liam definitely have interesting, like, weird things they're enjoying, then they haven't been listening.
No, but we are also looking for more recommendations because we kind of... I think we've done most of the recommendations that we wanted to do that people have given us in the past.
Yeah, we've got a list, and a lot of the stuff on there is shit, and I don't want to do it. Sorry, Sam. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I am up for doing it, so...
Liam is, but I cannot be asked to watch Sir Billy, and I really don't want to watch the Godfather trilogy at all.
It's weird to me that you can't be asked to watch Sir Billy, but you're so willing to watch all of the Asylum films.
Asylum are great. Sir Billy is just going to be bad.
Yeah, probably. But it is Sean Connery.
That doesn't mean anything.
No. I also am well up for doing the Godfather trilogy, which I know Amanda would like to hear us talk about.
They're just so long.
Yeah. They are.
Hey, listeners, let me know. Is it okay if I just read the Wikipedia summary for that episode? Because then I'm in.
No, is the answer.
Damn.
What would you give Crossed Volume 1 out of 5?
Probably a 4, I think, because I know that I enjoy some of the other volumes more than the first one.
Well, hot diggity damn, we agree.
Look at that, listeners. Ring the bell. It's another review that we agree on.
If we had a website, it would be fascinating to like keep track of how many times we agree and disagree.
Yeah.
Like keep a list of all of the culture swaps and what we've rated them out of 5.
If anyone wants to go back and, listen to every episode and tell us, feel free.
I mean, it's quite easy now because we've got at least half of the culture swaps on YouTube, so you can just kind of skip to roughly the end of that part of the video.
Yeah, that's true.
In all honesty, if we ever get a website, it's something that we could probably do quite easily. But my task is to finish the YouTube stuff, and I should not give myself more tasks until after that is done.
Good boy, Liam. You've grown so much.
I'm learning. So you've had 2 hours now to come up with what we're doing on our next episode, because the next episode is a special episode.
Yeah, listeners, every year on the anniversary of the birth of Nerd on Nerd, me and Liam set each other a sort of special culture swap. We've had the original one, which was erotic fan fiction. We each went and wrote a bit of erotic fan fiction about ourselves. Mine involved crabs. Liam's was a beautiful story.
Yeah, I always try and get the listeners involved. Like with that one, I wanted the listeners to submit, and we had Tom and Amanda both submitted erotic fan fiction.
Tom's story is a work of beautiful, beautiful fiction.
Yeah, and Amanda's is amazing.
Yeah. All of the ones we got in were amazing.
Yeah.
Then the year after that, we did have a bit of a down, and I like to blame Liam for it.
Yeah, but also the listeners didn't get as involved.
They didn't. I don't know how they would have got involved. We basically, I think the premise was just write a letter to yourself now, and then one for 5 years.
Right, it was writing a letter to each other. One for now,
that's right,
and one for 5 years' time. So the idea was the listeners.
It was shit.
The listeners were meant to write something to us now that we could read it out.
It was shit.
That was like,
Thing was, it was shit.
We love your show, and then in 5 years' time, it would have been fun to go back and see what sort of things our listeners were thinking about 5 years ago.
So there's two issues that we had with that. One, neither of us wrote the letter for 5 years.
No, I started it. I wrote one sentence.
Yep, so that's one issue with that. The second issue was the idea was bad, and we didn't realise until we recorded it that it was very bad.
Yeah.
So that's bad.
Yeah.
So, third time's the charm. Everyone knows that it was my turn. I believe I said to Liam last time, look, you're not allowed to come up with an idea. I'm going to do it.
We were going to start alternating.
Blah, blah, blah. Yep. Then, as listeners who listen regularly know, I have been convincingly lying to you all for a few weeks, saying that I definitely have an idea, and it's not been obvious to everyone that I in fact don't.
I just found my letter for 5 years' time. It's 2 sentences.
Is it actually fully written?
I actually did write it.
Oh, okay, well, don't worry about it.
So we can still read that out in another 4 years' time.
Okay, well, maybe I'll write one now and be like, sorry, I didn't write it a year ago. So, my job is to come up with our thing for the next culture swap.
Yep. You've had all year to do it.
I've had all year, plus 2 hours.
Yeah, because when we started this, I said to Ellie, I'm looking forward to what you've come up with for what we're doing next time. And Ellie had a look on her face that was kind of like dawning realisation.
That I haven't done it yet. Yeah.
And also fear. I
did point out that I wouldn't be able to think in the 2 hours because I'd be busy hosting a podcast. But,
I thought you could multitask.
Listeners, work with me here. What the fuck do we do? We've got to do something special, because that's what we do. So it can't just be, let's go watch something.
No, definitely. It has to be something that listeners could get involved in if they could be bothered to.
Yep. Maybe, okay, genuinely, and I think you're going to be annoyed that I'm suggesting this.
Oh, God.
Because I think I said no to it before.
Right.
But, to be fair, hear me out, because it's longer now, so it makes more sense. What if we did Culture Swap the first episode of Nerd on Nerd?
Yeah, that is definitely something that I suggested in the past that you said no to.
It is, but it was only 2 years then, and I think we've gotten a lot better since then now.
Alright, so we're going to...
The thing is, it's going to be fucking awkward as shit, because I don't like the old stuff.
Yeah.
1, because we were bad, and 2, because I'm a transgender woman who doesn't super want to listen to herself be referred to as her dead name for an hour and a half.
To be fair, first episode's only, I think, 50 minutes long.
Oh, good. Easy. No, to be fair, I'm up for doing it.
Okay.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon that's a thing we could do?
Yeah. I think it ticks all the boxes.
It's special. It could be shit. I mean, the episode's going to be shit.
So, to be honest, right, because I listened to the first episode in the last year and a bit, because I did it for the YouTube channel. I actually quite like some of our older episodes.
Oh, well, don't spoil whether it's good or not, Liam.
Oh, no, I'm not saying the first one, because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have a culture swap. because obviously it was the first one.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was just us kind of being like, it was us catching up. We did the whole catching up with stuff, but it was kind of like, well, no one really knows who we are, so who cares? It was meant to be like an introduction, but we also didn't really treat it like that.
Cool. Sounds like us missing the point of our own episodes.
Yeah, and this was before I was even going to the cinema and had my cinema card, so I don't even know if we had like film reviews and stuff at this point.
Well, this is all stuff we're going to learn, Liam, when we review Nerd on Nerd episode 1.
It's actually 31 minutes and 59 seconds.
I believe this is even before the numbering system came into place. Didn't we? The original episodes were...
Yeah, I think the first like 6 or so episodes on SoundCloud, you were like, I don't want to number them, and I eventually got you on the right track, realising that was a terrible idea.
Well...
I've numbered it on
YouTube.
YouTube.
I say potato.
Yeah, I've numbered it on YouTube.
I think so. Yeah, so if you're on YouTube, it's got a number. That number is 1.
Yeah.
If you're on SoundCloud or any podcasting apps or whatever, just scroll back to the beginning. It's of course it is. I'm an idiot. What? It's called a Fleshlight. Is the first episode? No, wait.
Yeah,
it's only only 31 minutes. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
Of course it's called that. I can't believe I'd forgotten that was the name. I thought that was like a later reference, but no.
So we're doing episode 1. It's called a Fleshlight for this one, right?
Yeah. So listeners, cool. Episode 1. It's called a Fleshlight.
Come and join us.
Re-listen to that episode. Let us know how shit that is or good.
Yeah. Definitely get involved. I will tweet out the link when this episode goes live. I'll tweet out the YouTube link to episode 1 so you can find it easily from our Twitter account.
Yeah, just like that photo he's tweeting out.
Yeah, I'll get around to it. I couldn't remember if I was meant to tweet out the photo, well, the picture that I drew of the other guy, or...
Just do both.
Yeah, but I've lost the picture that I drew of the other guy. I'd have to redraw it.
Just redraw it. You redrew it for me.
Yeah, that's true. It took all about 5 seconds, didn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't hard.
No, that's true. I remember how it goes.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, mate.
Yeah. All right. I'll do that at some point.
Okay.
Keep me honest, listeners. If I haven't done it, moan at me.
Remind him.
Moan at me until I get it done.
And the way you can moan at Liam is by tweeting us at NerdOnNerdPod.
No.
Emailing us.
No, our Twitter is just at NerdOnNerd.
Tweet us at NerdOnNerd. Email us at nerdonnerdpod@gmail.com. Yeah. Or you can Facebook us, facebook.com/nerdonnerdpod, all one word. Or you could comment on a YouTube video. Not this one, because this one's going to be up years later. So, I mean, if Liam hasn't posted the image by the time you're watching this on YouTube, it's just not going to happen.
That's worrying. That's depressing.
Just search on YouTube for Nerd on Nerd. Is that right?
Yeah, all one word.
All one word. We come up. We're YouTube famous.
We're not,
but we wish we were.
But if you subscribe to us, eventually maybe we will be.
Maybe we will. Also, you can rate and review us on iTunes, or I guess other apps probably have ratings. Do it on there. Do it wherever. But if you do it on iTunes, we'll try and read it out. So
no, we definitely will read it out.
Because we don't get any. Yeah. So it'd be nice.
Yeah, we will read out pretty much any correspondence we get because we don't really get any. Yeah,
you can be mean to us and we'll probably read it out. But
no, I will read it out because I will have issues.
Please don't be mean to us. Thank you.
Any final thoughts?
No.
Bye.
Bye.